up, everybody? It's your boy, Benton, bringing to you live from the intergalactic headquarters of Cryptopia, brought to you by CryptoLiveLeak. We're here today, and we're excited. We got a lot of stuff lined up on today's vlog. Special guest today, Mike Elias from IdeaMarkets. We're going to be talking recaps from the Ethereal Summit. We're going to be talking about recaps from the ongoing Consensus Distributed Virtual Conference. If you guys have not gone to those are still going on this week. And I think there's still recordings of the Ethereal Summit. Lots of good nuggets that I've taken away from everything. We're going to dive into that a little bit later. We're going to be talking a little bit of vocabulary today, folks. Going to be getting you some basics for some terminology. And then we're going to be diving out to a few shout outs there at the end. So first of all, wanted to get you guys back into the saddle here. If you guys don't know, we're here, CryptoLiveLeak, and we're trying to bring you the basics of blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. So first of all, for those of you who don't know, cryptocurrency is its own entity that is overlaid into blockchain technology a lot of the time, but they are two separate things. So just so you know, when we talk about crypto, that is more specifically talking about a currency, a digital currency, and blockchain, which is the technology behind those cryptocurrencies. That's kind of what those two are, if you didn't know. But today's vocabulary of the week, folks, is DeFi. This is something that I was able to watch today. I watched a conference about three young gentlemen who were talking about the subject, and they broke it down in such a great manner. So shout out to those guys at the Consensus Distributed Conference today. But what is DeFi? What is DeFi, folks? You've heard it. It's kind of the buzzword when it comes to the blockchain technology world, but DeFi is decentralized finance. So what the guys broke down today was that decentralized finance is essentially a parallel system to the already legacy financial system with the big banks and the Federal Reserves and the clearinghouses and all that kind of jazz. So imagine a system that is completely decentralized. So what I mean by that is there is no third parties governing and approving payments between parties. There's no bank saying, hey, we're going to hold this for 48 hours until it transfers out. There's no, hey, it's going to take 36 hours to get this money out of your account. So imagine a world that is completely decentralized. If you want to send $100 or 100 Bitcoins over to your buddy in Europe, you can do it at a flash of a second. Not only that, there's several use cases within the DeFi kind of niche of blockchain. So DeFi is a market and industry within itself, and it does fall under the blockchain technology umbrella because it uses blockchain to establish that decentralized aspect that everyone talks about. But many different things can happen within the DeFi marketplace. People are talking about loans. Essentially, you can create savings accounts with certain companies within the blockchain space and earn interest on that cryptocurrency. Now, there are risks involved with all of this. So before you go, hammering away on the App Store, typing in, DeFi apps, make sure you do your research. If this is something you're interested in, this is one of the, I believe, the most fastest growing emerging parts, and it's going to be the most quickly to deploy into the real world. From what they were saying at the conference is the gentleman that hosted one of the meetings are really optimistic that this will be one of the first segments to reach mass adoption because they are so close to really finalizing the infrastructure of the DeFi marketplace. So like I said, to get back to it, there's several different use cases for which DeFi operates within. Essentially, you can create a savings account where you're getting earned interest. It's not just 1% or 2% interest. It can be as high as 8 or 10%, where this interest is being paid out weekly on your cryptocurrency. So it's almost a new age bank if you think about it. You're still having to trust this third party, but what they're doing is they're taking that money in your account, your savings account, and they're lending it out to other people. and getting an interest rate, and you're also getting paid for that. So people are paying to use that money, and then when you do need that money, you can theoretically get access to that cryptocurrency. So that is one use case of it. A lot of the other cases they were mentioning were derivatives, loans, and synthetic assets. So like I said, getting back to that savings account, these companies are lending out the cryptocurrency to others who are investing it or using it to day trade or whatever, and you're earning that interest for essentially letting that cryptocurrency sit in that account and let these companies invest or loan out how they wish. Now, a lot of high risk involved with that because you have to trust that entity a lot. Essentially, these new decentralized frameworks are creating banks, but without any of the red tape, bureaucracy, government oversight, the SEC regulations, FDIC, insurance, none of that is involved with this because of the decentralized nature of it. So that's one of the things is still risky. So understand the risks of the DeFi marketplace. There will be regulations to come, I believe, and it will be a matter of time. But for now, understand those risks because those are risks associated with. There is a lot of upside to that, where you could be earning 10% interest on a lot of your coins throughout the duration of a year. But also keep in mind that this could be a 2008 scenario where people are getting loans that they shouldn't be, and what happens if they can't pay them back? Now those third-party hosting entities that are issuing out loans and paying interest can't repay you your coins if you want to pull them out and take them to a wallet or an exchange. So like I said, understand those risks involved with DeFi. One of the great examples that the speaker DeFi Dad, if you haven't followed DeFi Dad, go give him a follow. Awesome speaker, gives you things at a very elementary level, and it always is giving insightful information. But the example he used is when he explains it to people it is like sending the current legacy financial system is like sending a mail parcel in the mail, where it takes 3 or 4 days to send, and you get it, and great, awesome. What he said is happening now, it's DeFi is essentially like an email. So what happens when you send an email? You can send it anywhere in the world, and boom, within seconds, that person can receive that email. So he says that's essentially what DeFi is doing for the legacy system. So it's going to be really cool to see in the upcoming months and years the old legacy system, and if they're able to adapt, and if people are going to start to not trust that legacy system and put trust into a more decentralized system. Going to be very interesting to see these two parallel industries now. Are they going to be able to survive together? Are they going to be able to thrive together? Will one overcome the other? It's going to be really interesting to see it play out, but from what they were mentioning in these meetings today at the Consensus Distributed Conference, more specifically on the DeFi meeting, was that this is the market for an entrepreneur's dream right now. Just because of the quickness of how it's being deployed, and obviously the amount of money that can be made. One of the examples that I believe Spencer Noon had mentioned was that there was a certain market cap where it was 1 billion, and the regular legacy industry is in the trillions. So there's so much more room for growth in the DeFi marketplace, and it's going to be really cool to see, because he believes that it's very fast growing and they're knocking on the door of mass adoption. So really cool stuff. That's kind of your vocab of this week is DeFi. If you want to learn more, I recommend going to Google or reaching out to DeFi Dad on Twitter. Great resource. He's posting a lot about stuff, and I'm not sure if Consensus Distributed is recording a lot of the meetings that they have, but if they do, highly recommend. There's still a few days left in the conference with a lot of great speakers. Definitely recommend going to that. Last thing I wanted to touch on here before we get into our special guest today, the Ethereal Summit 2020 that happened last week was the first week of May there. If you missed it, You missed out. I'm sure there is recordings of a lot of the meetings out there. So if you have a chance, go check them out. I highly recommend. I went to a lot of meetings last week. I think it was a 2-day conference, and that's actually how I met Mike, our special guest for today. Before we get into our interview here with Mike, I do want to give a special shout out to Block Relations. If you have not heard about Block Relations, they are your plug for the blockchain industry. We're talking helping startups get in contact and get connected with enterprise businesses. We know a lot of great startups out there are working on these projects, and they may not be on anybody's radar. We are here to get you the exposure, and we're here to get you connected with all of the big enterprise systems that will be deploying blockchain technology here in the upcoming months and years. And we want to get you guys to the forefront. So if you have not heard of Block Relations, go check us out. It is our sister company affiliated with CryptoLiveLeak. We appreciate a like and a follow. As always, go smash those like buttons, subscribe to our channels on YouTube. So let's get into it, folks. We're going to be interviewing Mike Elias from IdeaMarkets today. All right, we're here today with Mike Elias from IdeaMarkets. Mike, thank you for joining us. Wanted to first of all thank you for taking time out to speak to the world of cryptopia and the beautiful blockchain technology world that we live in now. First of all, can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from, and how did you get started in the industry?
Sure, thanks. First, I'm happy to be here. I've lived all over the United States. I was born in Ohio, actually, and now live in Los Angeles. And I've been working in the blockchain industry for almost 3 years, and have been, fortunate to work for some really great startups, including the one that I work for now. And I'm also starting my own called IdeaMarkets, which you mentioned.
Awesome. Now, what were some of the first companies that you got involved with, and what exactly grabbed your interest with those startups?
I like that question. So the first blockchain company that I worked for was called HealthChain, and it was founded by a Stanford faculty member and her husband, who was an excellent programmer and had built the medical records management, like a custom medical records management for their psychiatry practice, for his wife's psychiatry practice. And they wanted to basically do electronic medical records, EMR, on the blockchain. Because right now the incentives are for EMR companies and for hospitals to sort of keep patient data private and siloed, because it's a customer retention angle. If I have to redo all my tests, if I go to a different hospital, well, I'm going to keep going to you.
Right.
And that sort of duplication of effort and separation of records causes a lot of administrative costs, and basically most of, if I understand correctly, the rising costs of healthcare in the United States are as a result of this kind of data competition. So they wanted to do medical records on the blockchain. Everybody shares, gives permission, private keys and stuff like that, and they wanted to do it.
That's awesome. So how long were you involved with that company in particular?
Yeah, about 6 months. I started with them in the summer of 2017 when everyone was doing an ICO, and we, for a variety of reasons, didn't get the act together quickly enough. And by the time we did, the market did not have the same appetite for completely unfinished things. Like the team had built a lot, and it would have been really attractive in the summer, but the mood changed really fast, and it just ceased to be the right moment. So I parted ways with them.
Okay. Now, what is your background in particular? Are you an engineer? I saw you on your Twitter profile. You have some psychology stuff, and a lot of the work that I've seen on your website involves a lot of that. Can you kind of talk us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, totally. My background does involve a lot of psychology and philosophy, which I studied formally a little bit in school, but mostly I've been an autodidact since I was a teenager, and a lot of that had to do with psychology, philosophy, personal development, that kind of stuff, meditation, that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
And I'm kind of, proudly without credentials in that respect.
Okay. All right. Right on. So let's dive into IdeaMarkets. I was able to watch your and Arif's presentation there at the Ethereal Summit, and it was honestly my favorite presentation that I got to see. First of all, Arif dove into deepfakes and then perfectly segue that into IdeaMarkets. So tell us about what is IdeaMarkets in a nutshell, for those at home who don't know about it.
IdeaMarkets is a protocol for a curation market.
Right.
And a curation market uses skin in the game to identify the best content from a wide variety of options. So we're basically, the way I conceptualize IdeaMarket is NASDAQ versus Reddit. It combined, NASDAQ and Reddit combined.
Okay.
So you have something like Reddit allows the crowd to vote up and make visible the best content in the world, but those votes are free, so they're easily gamed. Whereas NASDAQ, you have the opportunity to lose money if you're wrong, if the crowd disagrees with you, or to make money if you pick something good early before the crowd realizes it. So there's this combination of incentives that make visibility expensive, and that's what I'm doing here. And the first and most major problem that it solves is the problem of corporate media credibility, because they have none, but they have the ability to print credibility from thin air like a central bank does with money, because there's no mechanism for accountability or for replacing corporate media with the appearance of legitimacy. They are the gatekeepers, and they use it to keep themselves the gatekeepers. So in the same way that Bitcoin makes money expensive for everybody, including central banks, IdeaMarket makes credibility expensive for everybody, including media corporations. I hope that's clear. Is that helpful?
No, I think that you definitely outlined the construct of what you built. And the thing that I love about it the most is that, everyone's, especially after the 2016 election, regardless of your party, it was just an absolute mess across the board. And I think this tool and instrument is something that is a perfect use case of blockchain technology, because it's manufacturing trust between, these big corporations and now the people of the world. And I think that's one of the coolest parts of this, is that I'm not a big believer in these big conglomerates and big corporations. So how do we break that down and decentralize that so that they are accountable? And this tool is a perfect mechanism for accomplishing that. And I think that's really the coolest part of it all.
Thank you. Yeah. How do we do that? Well, they're not going to do it without a fight. They're not really interested in being the best deliverers of truth and information, or they would be. Their profits don't actually really come from that. They come from being the exclusive, authoritative seeming source. They come from being the sort of notary on ideas. They have the stamps, and they decide this is legitimate, this is important. Whether or not they do a good job applying the stamp to things that deserve it is a completely separate issue.
Right.
But as long as they have eyeballs to sell to advertisers, and the ability to shape narratives in accordance with the preferences of the most wealthy and powerful people and institutions, it doesn't matter for their bottom line. It doesn't matter for their stock price. It doesn't matter for their longevity. So what IdeaMarket does is it realigns these interests of the assumed basic function of a media corporation to inform the public with the existential need of a media corporation, which is to make a profit. And the way it does that is not going to be particularly welcome uh, or it wouldn't, or IdeaMarkets wouldn't be needed.
Right. Well, I mean, it seems like it's super disruptive to kind of the status quo of getting the clicks, getting the viewership for these giant corporations. So I would imagine, yes, it's like when Uber came in and disrupted the taxi industry. All the taxi companies were pissed that they were disrupting their industry. And not necessarily in the same manner, but the fact that behind all of this is truth and accountability. I think that's the most important part of it all. And now they're going to be required to be reporting at a higher standard. And in my opinion, it's crazy to see how they are able to get away with as much as they have. And I think this, like I said, kind of stops everything in its tracks. My next question for you is, you're applying this to corporate media. Are there any other industries in particular that you feel like this tool would be applicable to?
Absolutely. The market could be used for anything, including in places where it's not needed, where it's just fun. But some of the industries that I think need it most are scientific peer review, where there's actually a lot of centralization and profit seeking in the scientific journal, scientific credibility industry. There are only about 6 or 7 journals that publish 50, 90, some absurd number of scientific papers. So there's this little cartel that gets to decide who's credible. And there's a lot of rent seeking and gatekeeping and ostracization of people who are not interested in playing that game. So the scientific establishment is really as much of a sham as the media establishment. And it has abandoned the implied goal of improving human knowledge and seeking new frontiers in exchange for something else, some power-seeking, narrative-controlling, profit-seeking motive. So what IdeaMarket would do is strengthen peer review with skin in the game. In the same way that in IdeaMarket you could make money if you're right early or lose money if you're wrong late, IdeaMarket applied to a collection of scientific papers could basically do the same thing, and would allow people who are ostracized from the official scientific community to not only to be heard, but incentivize the public to seek them, to listen to them. Because if you've ever been, you're new to the crypto community somewhat, but you're not so new that you have not seen people shilling each other coins, shilling each other low caps, I'm sure.
Right.
Hey, have you seen, Denta coin? It's really small, but it's going to get really big.
Right.
Or, going up to some influencer and say, hey, show me the next big thing. Tell me what I'm missing. These people saying, tell me what I'm missing, does not really exist. It's an investment-only sentiment. So in order to improve public knowledge, we have to improve the incentives of the public. We have to make the public want to say, show me what I'm missing. And that's what IdeaMarkets is intended to do for corporate media. It could do that for science. That's a fundamental part of how it works.
Awesome. Now, I know you mentioned it during the presentation you made at the Ethereal Summit. I've noticed a common theme within blockchain technology so far, and a lot of that is evolving around game theory. It seems like a lot of the projects have that incorporated into whether their foundation of having some sort of game theory involved, where the user and the overarching entity are both incentivized to work together in that trust factor. Can you kind of talk to us a little bit more about how is game theory involved with the blockchain industry overall, and then more specifically, how is it involved with IdeaMarket?
Sure. So game theory is its own scientific field in which I don't really have a background, and I'm not suited to talk about it in a highly technical, mathematical way that many people do, particularly in this industry.
Okay.
I prefer to talk about incentives, which I guess is just kind of a more kid-friendly version of the same thing.
Sure.
But yes, I think the fundamental value of blockchain technology is the ability to shape incentives and games, if you will, in ways that we never have been able to before. Whereas powerful parties used to compete for trust or resources or political will or cooperation, now we can basically create software that doesn't care who you are, where you're from, what your past is, what you want, treats everybody equally in achieving the same goal. If we can align incentives between all kinds of different parties that were never before reconcilable, without asking humans to change their nature, without asking humans to stop seeking profit, without asking humans to stop seeking their best interest. We can align selfishness with contribution to the whole in a way that nobody can stop and does not treat people differently to one another. That is provably fair is a term that gets thrown around a lot. That sort of incentive playground is what I see being the itself as an example. Bitcoin, the existence of Bitcoin gives new incentives to the world with how money is created and treated. And even though it is not intended to be dynamic and flexible and smart contract programmable the way Ethereum is, the effect it has is exactly the same. It's a software construction that treats everybody equally, and as a result, creates new incentives for everybody equally. And that's what I'm excited for in the blockchain space.
Awesome. I think when you boil everything down, like we kind of touched on earlier, is blockchain is bringing together everybody in the world. Doesn't matter what you look like you said, doesn't care about your past, and treating everyone as equal and evening that playing field. So big conglomerates, big special interest groups are no longer, they have that power because the power is back in the people's hands. And I love that aspect of blockchain technology. We're going to kind of shift over to something I saw on your Twitter profile. You are the self-proclaimed Blackbeard of armchair psychology. Walk me through that. What does that mean to you? Kind of tell the audience, like, what is that?
Sure. Well, nobody's supposed to know it's self-proclaimed. It's put in quotes as if someone else said it. But,
Okay.
But what was the question? Tell you about that.
What does that mean to you? What does the Blackbeard of armchair psychology mean?
What does it mean to you? I'm curious. What do you think of when you see it?
So after watching your presentation, I got maybe Blackbeard, where it's a little association with the old adage with him. But I guess with armchair psychology, I'm thinking you like to sit back and speculate or be able to look at things from a different angle than most, but have a pirateer way about you, I guess. I don't know. That's how I would interpret it, I guess.
That's pretty much right. I guess the only thing I would add is armchair. The word armchair exists to excuse myself from credentialists.
Okay, fair enough.
To make people say, I'm going to assert myself and I'm not going to back it up. It is for those who have ears to hear. And that's just how it is.
Right on, man. And this kind of folds into the next question about psychology here. How do you feel psychology fits into the blockchain world? And obviously it plays a big part in what you're doing with IdeaMarket, but what kind of aspects do you see psychology playing in blockchain technology specifically?
Since I think blockchain's primary gift is about incentives, and incentives are about psychology and what motivates is a fundamental role to play. I could even say that blockchain enables an industry of psychoengineering that could never exist before. Because whereas it used to be, well, let me put it, decentralized psychoengineering. Whereas in the past, in order to create a new incentive structure, you basically have to create a new institution, new infrastructure, something that people can rely on to be the way it is under all circumstances or for a long time, and thus lean their decision making against that, or lean their resource expectations against that. That's what a media institution is. It's something that you expect will always be there for you and play this role. I don't have to do this because they are. I will just lean on them. So that's what an institution means to me. And blockchain means that anybody can create something that has those properties. Anybody can create an institution. Anybody can create an unstoppable force in a way that's going to be as it is, potentially forever, and potentially under those circumstances. It creates this new mountain in the incentive landscape. And so decentralized psychoengineering is using psychology to build institutions that help the world work better in a natural way. It's about working with human nature to accomplish human necessities. Because right now, human nature is just causing extortion and pain. So that's how I see psychology being extremely important. Psychology allows wisdom to be introduced to blockchain engineering in such a way that what blockchain can do can meet its potential and serve everybody.
Now, a question more based on, I guess, socioeconomics. Do you feel that with the mass adoption of blockchain, that gap between the poorest of the poor and the richest of the rich will close over time? What are your kind of thoughts on something like that?
It could definitely go either way, but there are certainly more tools now to make that more possible and more profitable, make that a more cooperative process rather than an adversarial one. And I think that's the best use of this technology, not to defeat one another, but to emerge from the personal good.
Awesome. Now we're going to kind of shift over more towards the overarching blockchain technology and some crypto questions. But in your opinion, where do you see blockchain technology heading from like a macro level? How far away from a mass adoption event? And what do you feel would be a catalyst to something like that?
Barring technical limitations such as transaction speeds and security and things like that, which are not my areas of expertise, I think we are just about ready. They're really, and a really crucial piece of the puzzle actually is insurance and finding ways to compensate for technical risk, which is new. And since the assets are all governed by software, they're just subject to different and more irreparable risks. If you lose a Bitcoin, it's programmatically lost. Like there's no force on earth or heaven, no excavator that can dig up a ship full of gold and get it back for you. It's gone.
Right.
So I think insurance is an extremely important part of the ecosystem, because there's not really any way to promise, no matter how expert you are, no matter how established a platform is, that everything will go perfectly. So the role that insurance plays is making it cease to matter that everything goes perfectly. And that seems to be the wisest and simplest way to enable growth. If you take away the worry of the consequences, you take away the need to do the impossible, which is absolutely, certainly preventing the consequences of problems. I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, when you're looking at the industries that blockchain is getting involved with, what are you seeing out there as some of the biggest barriers to entry to some industries, in particular, with IdeaMarket or anything like that?
Probably just the newness, but I think one of the most obvious issues is user experience.
Hmm.
The dealing with blockchains can be slow. It can require making blockchain applications feel so much like existing applications that nobody has to think about the difference is the bridge that has to be bridged.
Hmm.
And I think we're much closer to that than we get credit for. Um, there are at least a few projects that are very close to making that a reality to a certain extent, and I think it's just a matter of making blockchain recede into the background, recede into the back end layer of things, so that users don't have to think about it, um, and that it becomes normal. I guess also fiat on and off ramps, making everything feel like dollars and making everything really accessible from dollars, because people send each other money on Facebook, on Square, but we're used to sending dollars around,
Hmm.
but we're not really used to sending crypto around. And if it's worth about the same, it doesn't necessarily feel like it because it's called something else, and you have to do all these technical steps in between. You have to send it to Coinbase and convert it to this and wait 5 days. So it's basically just about, now that we know blockchain is a thing, we have to forget it's a thing
Hmm.
so that we can use it without tripping over it. So I would say user experience and insurance are the two main things probably.
Now, do you ever envision a world that is fiatless, where a single cryptocurrency or a stable coin is able to kind of take over the world, so to speak?
Yeah, and the fascinating thing about the way the world works now is it's sort of like the Pantheon in Greece. You know, the Pantheon, it
Mhm.
has like this big dome that
Yep.
goes up to the top, and then there's a hole at the top. So, the highest point is actually multiple highest points, and there's an empty hole right there in the middle. That's sort of how I feel the world's power structures are. You can look at who's in charge, and there's, Trump and uh, Boris Johnson and, whoever else, the top leaders of blah, 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 various things. They're kind of around in a circle, and, there they kind of are. But within that circle, you don't know what other strings are being pulled. There's like an infinite, rabbit hole of conspiracy theory soup in there, which I fully endorse theory, and we can talk about that uh, later. But the point is, since we can't, with any reliability, figure out where the real power is coming from at its absolute apex or whatever, there's no way to use that knowledge to predict what a Bitcoin only world would look like. We can extrapolate based on our mental models of the economy and power now, and you get a certain vision, and I haven't actually given it enough thought to be able to give you a clear one.
Okay.
um, there's an asymptote to how well we can imagine that future, because we don't actually know uh, who and what incentives are at the apex.
Hmm. Interesting. Getting back to the industries, are there particular industries in like today that you see mass adoption, easily being able to be implemented? And what industries would those look like?
I'm interested in your thoughts on this as well, because I don't really explore that much on a macro scale like that right now.
Okay.
But I have seen some success in social media payments. I think Twitch, even though it's built on Bitcoin SV, has done a good job with incentives and has built kind of a cool futuristic Twitter type thing where payments are sent. And there are also now competing platforms competing with YouTube, since their censorship and payment policies have been less than ideal, to say the least. So it seems like those would be some of the first to incorporate crypto in a wide, far-reaching way in terms of new numbers of new users. And I think Brave's browser could also play an important role, because it's a very good browser and it has privacy features that Chrome does not, while having basically all the same extension and UX features. And it has a built-in crypto wallet, and they have at least 11 million users, because that's a number that came up a few months ago. So I think they also have a good opportunity to spread crypto far and wide. And nothing else comes immediately to mind, though I'm sure there are some.
Yeah. Actually using Brave browser right now. I just downloaded it a few weeks ago. I absolutely love it. The biggest thing that I like about Brave is they're kind of flipping the script on advertising too. So you get these basic attention tokens for visiting certain websites that are affiliated with Brave, and you're getting paid micro payments to be advertised to. And I think that's a new premise and paradigm that a lot of people are going to love. And at the end of the day, like these big conglomerates like Google and Apple are compiling our data and then reselling it. It's like it kind of should be in reverse, where that's our data. As our people, we should have the rights to own that. And if you want to advertise to me, then pay me something. And I think that's just a cool concept with Brave. But in particular, obviously, I think the obvious markets and industries that blockchain can easily be deployed in is the finance market, the insurance market. I've heard a lot of rumblings about how DeFi is almost there, to kind of breaking through the door, so to speak, to mass adoption. But those are kind of the things that I've had a pulse on, and I've been attending the Consensus Distributed Conference this week, and been hearing a lot of other things as well. So it's going to be cool. I cannot wait to see what happens in the next 6 months, year, and then 5 years, and kind of look back and reflect on all the amazing companies such as yours that have had such a huge impact on the world. The one last thing I wanted to get into here is our fire round. These are going to be some kind of fun questions here, just to get to know you a little bit better. Right on. So my first one for you: do you have a favorite band, music artist? What kind of music do you listen to?
Classic rock and blues, as you can tell.
Okay, right on.
AC/DC, Leonard Skinner, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan is deeply in my heart, and that kind of crowd.
Beautiful. Awesome, man.
Brothers. Yeah.
Good deal. Other fire round question for you. Do you have a favorite cryptocurrency? And if so, why?
I suppose I don't. I like to be weird and pick things that no one else picks. And the only two cryptocurrencies that are really relevant right now are Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so, I can't really have a, unique point of view on that.
Okay. Fair enough.
So yeah, not interesting.
Okay. What person, place, thing, or idea has had the biggest impact on your life so far?
I gave this a little bit of thought when you sent me the email, and what came to mind was there's this book called Radical Honesty by Brad Blanton. And when I picked it up, I was a teenager and I was an atheist. And I started experimenting with radical honesty and realizing that when I told the truth in like a complete and unvarnished way, life just went better than it could have been expected to. And started to realize even as an atheist, that truth has a force. Truth has a mysterious force to it. It is a thing that exists. It's not like a set of words or a formula. And that has been, I think it affects the work that I do.
Awesome. And obviously that is a core principle to IdeaMarket. Now, for those newcomers that are looking to get involved with either the crypto space or blockchain technologies, what is your biggest recommendation for people just to get started? Is there anything in particular that you would recommend doing for any newbies out there?
For any newbies, I would recommend not leverage trading. Everyone's going to try to sell you on leverage trading. Set aside, $100 or some insignificant amount of money and make it last as long as you can. But leverage trading works by allowing the top, 5 to 10% of traders to absolutely fleece all of the others. So their profits depend on attracting new fools who don't know what they're doing. And by all means, have fun, but you're not going to go up against Michael Jordan and win on your first try.
Right.
It's a career. So by all means play, but know that it's an absolute money pit unless you put in the work, unless you devote a lot of time to it. Second, don't buy anything except Bitcoin or Ether at this point.
Why is that?
Because the evidence of fundamental value for anything else requires a lot of time and research and failure to discern. I've had the luxury of working in this industry, so I've had to pay attention to it constantly for months and years. But especially if you don't work in crypto and are not paying attention for 5 hours a day, you're not going to be able to develop good judgment with respect to long shots, unless you do. I guess it's the same as with leverage trading. You just really have to be careful, assume everything is trash, because right now, especially after this long bear market, there's very little left that seems promising, and the number of shills and the variety of opinions has not really decreased. And unless you put in a lot of time and effort, it would be very difficult to.
Last question here of the fire round. If you could live anywhere in the universe, we're talking anywhere, where would it be?
Universe is difficult because there would have to be a very long rider with a lot of accommodations. Yeah, let's narrow it down a little bit, just because that's a really long rider. But, of all I would on Earth, I would have to say Sydney, downtown Sydney, because I really enjoyed my time there. It was beautiful.
Awesome.
And the food was great. Everyone spoke English, and there was also enough foreign stuff to be interesting. Yeah, so that's what I would say. So if there's anyone out there listening who's in Sydney, become my friend so that I want to move more.
Awesome. Right on. Well, Mike, where can people find more about IdeaMarket?
IdeaMarkets.org is the main home site. And you can also follow me on Twitter, HarmonyLion1. And those are good places to start. Particularly read the introduction to IdeaMarkets, which is a little bit buried on the IdeaMarkets.org website. It's down below the first section before the big call out. Yeah, that should do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us in the intergalactic headquarters of Cryptopia. We appreciate your time today, Mike, and we look forward to speaking with you hopefully in the future.
All right. It's been a pleasure. I'd be happy to come back.
Awesome. Right on. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Mike and you got some nuggets to take away from that. I absolutely loved meeting him. Like I said, I watched him in Arif Khan last week give a presentation about deep fakes and the state of the marketplace and how that's going to evolve. And with Mike's idea of IdeaMarkets, truly bringing accountability and truth back to the world, back to the citizens' hands. And that's the power he intends on giving back to you. So if you haven't had a chance, go check him out. He is on Twitter. Harmony Lion is his Twitter handle. And like I said, IdeaMarkets is a revolutionary idea, and I absolutely love getting to know Mike. And I look forward to hopefully speaking with him in the future and possibly grabbing a beer with the guy. Guy was awesome. Once again, big shout out to Mike. It was a pleasure meeting you. If you have not liked, subscribed, smashed any kind of like buttons, go check it out. We're on YouTube, CryptoLiveLeak. Go smash them. Smash. Give them a like. Twitter, Instagram, Block Relations is also our sister company, as I mentioned earlier. Go give us a like and a follow. We are bringing you guys the latest news. I know I have a couple articles that I'm going to be posting this week about the Consensus Distributed Conference that I've been attending and also the Ethereal Summit. We're bringing to you always the freshest and latest news in the blockchain technology field, and we appreciate you coming to the intergalactic headquarters of Cryptopia, brought to you by CryptoLiveLeak. Until next time, folks, over and out. This is your captain, Benton. Peace.